Hello. All right. So, when I was 16, I decided that I wanted to do something cool and meaningful. And I decided that that cool, meaningful thing would be to travel to Juarez, Mexico. Something to know about me is that I am a total homebody. I don't like to leave the house, really, and once I'm home, I like to stay home. But I decided that it was time for me to go do something good. And the reason why I specifically wanted to go to a very unsafe place, which at the time was averaging 7 murders a day, was because that is where my brother is from. He was adopted there a few years earlier. And during the adoption process, I was the only one from the family who wasn't allowed to go. I was too young and it was too unsafe, so I couldn't go. So I was 16, it was my turn to go. And so the trip had started through my church 10 years earlier, and that's sort of how my brother eventually became to be adopted. And it became too unsafe for the church trip to continue to go as a church-sanctioned thing, but there was a few people who were still going. So I was going to go with them. I had one of the leader was a family friend of mine, and I was going to go. And she was really the only person on the trip I knew. It was her, she was a retired Spanish teacher, her friend, and then 3 recent college grads, and then me, little 16-year-old. This is my first time away from home, and I was nervous. I was nervous to go somewhere that was so unsafe, but also I was nervous to be so far from home with people who I didn't know. I wanted to be received. It really mattered to me how these people who I was traveling with thought of me. I didn't want them to think of me as some teenage kid who was just going to pad my resume to get into a good school. I was going because it mattered to me. So I go to Juarez, Mexico with these 5 other people who I don't really know. And I'm nervous about that. So we go and we're gonna work in an orphanage. We're gonna, whatever needs to be done, paint walls, paint beds, make cement floors and stuff, and mix cement by hand. And it's gonna be hard work. And we're also gonna play with the kids, and that's gonna be awesome, and that's what I'm really looking forward to. So we don't stay at the orphanage, though. We stay at a hostel about, it's like a 3/4 of a mile down the road, half a mile down the road. So it's not that far, right? Except for the fact that you can't walk because it's unsafe. Because there's, drug issues, cartel issues, and even more dangerous to us Americans were probably the Juarez police. They're very corrupt, and they you don't want to get pulled over by them. So we had to travel in a van, and that was provided to us by the hostel that we stayed at. But I assume at one point it was a 12-passenger van. It was not anymore. It was purple. It was donated from a church in Illinois. It wasn't going to pass inspection in Illinois, so they said, send it to Juarez. So they drove it down. And it had a front seat and a passenger seat, like a driver's seat and a passenger seat. And then the back seat was this bench. And it was meant to be a car seat, but it wasn't attached to anything. So, and there are no seatbelts in this van. There are no air conditioning in this van. It's just a thing that drives forward. And so my seat, I was the youngest, was the back. So I had to hold on to the back seat, make sure I didn't fall out of the seat or the seat fall out of the van. Some vans don't even have back seats, so we were lucky. And we would make the trip. But another thing that complicated the trip was that there's a speed bump about every 10 feet. So this half-mile trip became a lot more complicated. We would get into the van and travel, hold on, but the driver had to drive really slow so that the people in the back seat didn't just completely fall over. So we would travel back and forth about 3 times a day to the orphanage and play with the kids, and it was, amazing and lovely and very, it made a big impact on me, and that connection that I was looking for, I made. But I was still feeling somewhat uneasy with, the people that I was with because I still, wanted to connect with them. So these van trips is really where we started to make this connection. we would just talk about our lives, talk about our day. It wasn't anything like extreme, like telling our deepest, darkest thoughts or anything like that. But, just like reminiscing. And these van trips in this purple Illinois van going back and forth over the bumps was just, it was a good time. And on the last night, we decided to go out to dinner to celebrate our fun trip to Juarez, Mexico. And we were feeling pretty good about it. And we get in the van at the end, and we're going to drive back over the speed bumps. And we're sitting in the back. There's 3 of us in the back there, 3 of the college-age kids. And one of them puts his arms around me and the other girl, Emily, in the back. And he goes, aren't we just the 3 best friends anybody's ever had? And I say, yeah, I still don't really know him, but I'm feeling more included and more comfortable. And at that moment, I'm feeling really good. But also at that moment, the driver is going a little too fast, and we hit a speed bump, and we're caught off guard, so the back seat just falls backwards. Thank you.